GM Tom Telesco. Tom, great to see you. How are you?
Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Thrilled to have you. And I saw you the other night here. We were here for the wellness weekend for the alumni. So you got an opportunity to be behind the scenes here. And I know you're getting to know the alumni. That was a special night.
That was a great night. By the way, they turned this building over pretty quick, huh? It was like a huge wedding in the back with the amount of people that are here, the way it was set up. It was a great event. A lot of alumni were here. And we had talked about it earlier. There is no team that does the alumni like the Raiders do. And the way that was set up, a whole weekend of activities, a lot of it around wellness and education for former players and their spouses. And it was a great event. It was fun just hanging out, talking with former players. I love hearing the stories of the players that played here in the past. It was just a great deal.
Yeah. Let's start off with OTAs and how's it been so far, getting the players in the building and some of your big thoughts overall.
Yeah, it's been great. I was just talking upstairs about, the OTA is really about individual improvement. It's probably the only time of the year it's really more about individual than team. A lot of the work is in the weight room, and the guys done a great job in the weight room with conditioning, strength development, and then individual development on the field. Now, obviously, we do some group and some teamwork on the field, but a lot of it's individual work, getting better. Now we get to training camp. Now it's really more about the team, group work, but individually, we need guys, especially like last year's draft class and 2 years ago, the young guys that kind of take a step up. A lot of that step up is in the offseason.
The evaluation period that you go through with the young guys and the free agents, how do you know they're going to accept this kind of individual coaching that seems to be new with Antonio Pierce's crew?
Yeah, so this time of year, I try not to evaluate the players. Try not to. I mean, they're out there practicing, so you do watch, and you can't help but a lot of the young guys, it's about learning the offense, the defense, the scheme, how we do things, even like how we practice, how the drills we use. If you learn that all here, once you get to training camp, then you let your abilities take over. And we let your talent take over. And that's where we start to evaluate the players. Here I try and keep an open slate because the guys are learning. Like the veterans kind of know the deal, but the young guys don't. So a lot of it's education, learning what we do, and we get to training camp, we'll start evaluating then.
One of the things that stood out to me, and I know you're out at practice, I am as well, is just the energy from the players and the coaches. What have you thought about that? Especially even in individual drills, there's still a lot of energy there.
Yeah, and it's kind of how Antonio put the coaching staff together, to have that energy in the practice field. You kind of need that. It's hard. It's hard work, right? Practice is hard, and it's supposed to be hard. But if there's energy to it, and the more you enjoy being out there, it kind of raises the level. But yeah, certainly a lot of energy, a lot on defense, obviously, and we like to see that. But watching the individual position coaches work with the guys, I think that's what AP wanted, is to have that part of that practice.
I wanted to ask you about Christian Wilkins. What a big signing. Can you take us behind the scenes on your evaluation before you got here? Everybody knew he was a great player. And then to see him up close now in the silver and black, what's that process been like?
We try and be very selective in who we sign, obviously, and obviously Christian was a big signing. But he kind of checked all the boxes we're looking for in a free agent, just as far as how he played in the past, what his age was, the position he plays, which is a premier position, to find that interior defensive lineman that can only play the run but play the pass, and has the character and work ethic we're looking for. I mean, the day that we signed him, he came in, did his media work, signed his contract, took his physical, not in that order, obviously, physical, contract, media. But then he was out here on the field getting his workout in. And actually, Gardner Minshew was doing the same thing when he came in. He was out here getting his workout in the day that they signed. That's what we want to see. I mean, they're here to play football. Work ethic is a big part of it, especially when he signed a big contract. So he's fit right in with us.
Yeah, I just love his energy. Even, watching him last year when he played for the Dolphins, I just thought he was the Raider kind of guy, perfect kind of player to match up, with Max Crosby. He reminds me a lot. I'm going to kind of give you a little history here. He reminds me a lot of Jerome Brown. I played with Jerome Brown early on out of Miami. Just so athletic, the great burst, pass rush, physical force. Talk to us a little bit about what your expectations are of him and Max together.
Yeah, that's a great comparison, by the way, Jerome Brown. Christian, he's a natural leader. Even though he's a veteran, even though he's played in the league, when you come to a new team, sometimes guys will take a step back and kind of see the lay of the land. He walked in here and he just leads naturally right away. And that's kind of rare to see.
Yeah.
But look, if we're going to build the defense, you have to start up front. Rushing coverage, that's what we need. But to have him and Max, and we've got, probably 4, 5, 6 different guys we can bring in on the defensive front to get after the quarterback. And it makes your coverage look a heck of a lot better. And
Yeah, it does.
So, but that was the thought behind it. We can't have everybody just sliding the protection to max all the time. We have some rushers on the other side, but we need some interior pass rush. That's the hardest to find, and that's why we spend that much money on Christian Wilkins.
AP's made it very obvious that he wants not only great players, but he wants great Raiders and guys that specifically fit with what the Raiders want to do. He said he's the gatekeeper of that locker room. How important was it to get not only Christian Wilkins a talent, but Christian Wilkins the Raider?
Yeah, I mean, fit is huge. Fit's important in the draft. It's important for agency. We want guys that fit the Raiders. All right, and there's a certain fit. Even it's so funny just talking like Max Crosby. Like, does he fit the Raiders? Like, it's Max with 2 X's. How could he not fit the Raiders? But it's the style of play. It's how much you work, in the off season. But a lot of it's just the personality. Like, we let you be you, whatever that is. Don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you work hard, you're accountable, and you're a great teammate. But yeah, and when AP has a vision for what he wants, and that's what. And actually, our scouts are here this week going through some meetings. It makes player acquisition that much easier when the head coach has a specific vision of what he wants, not only in the team but each individual position, and that's what we have right now.
Tom, I'm fascinated by Brock Bowers and how it came about. Your evaluation. The draft starts happening. Michael Penix goes early. The quarterbacks are going. And then all of a sudden, arguably, I don't think it's arguable, the greatest tight end in the history of college, 2 Mackey Awards, 2 national championships, is on the board. What was it like in this building as Bowers was coming towards you?
It's a scenario that we had worked through to see if that could happen. We had to have everything covered. You just never know how the draft's going to run. So that was one of the scenarios. And one of the things we looked at in the offseason was offensively, just like keep it simple. Like, we got to score. We got to score more points on offense. That could come from, offensive line, better protection, better run game. It could come from playmakers at receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback. It doesn't matter. We got to score more. So he should help us in that regard. Still a young player. I like what I've seen so far. Not trying to evaluate too much in OTAs, but you can't help but see his athletic ability, his feel in the passing game. The one thing you can't get a feel for here, just because of the nature of practice, is his run after catch ability. But he has some natural instincts to it, combined with he's fast and strong and a great athlete. So it's been great to see. We have to get him integrated in the offense. That will start kind of in training camp, but excited to have him.
Yeah, I tell you, when we picked him up, the first thing I thought was, man, that's going to be so dynamic with those 2 guys, Michael and him, on the football field at the same time. It just would give defenses just headaches, right? You're not sure whether to go with the nickel package if you're defense, if you're going to line up with an extra Sam linebacker. That must give this offense an opportunity to really dictate when they have that opportunity.
It does, and what's nice about both Michael and Brock is they can block at the line of scrimmage, which is part of your job description. And I think with Brock, I think people forget, like, he'll get after it in the run game. He's going to give up a little bit of size to bigger defensive ends, which is natural. But he kind of has that plays with an edge, gets after guys, and you just got to tie him up for a little bit and finish the block and let the back decide what he wants to do. But Michael has that as well. So, yeah, depending on how teams want to play us, it's good to have different matchups with receiver and different styles of receiver, different styles of tight ends, different styles of backs to give some people some problems.
Regardless of the quarterback competition, how that shakes out, those guys have to be the best weapons for those quarterbacks. So it's got to make them even more comfortable.
Yeah, it has to. And like I said, you like to have a nice menu for Luke Getsy to go to. Different styles of players at different positions, get the offensive line solidified, and let it go from there.
Tom, last question for us. With the cap where you're at now, currently, and you got to sign players in the future, how unique is this situation right now? How do you feel about where you are financially with this roster?
Yeah, it's good to have. It's earmarked for this year. The cap space we have now, earmarked some for this year, some for next year. We want to make sure we have some long-term sustainability. I think what people forget is there's also a good portion of that you need in season just to operate. Where there's injured reserve, practice squad, that sort of thing. We still have some eyes on some players that are out there right now that we may sign going into training camp. We'll kind of see how it works out. But as we build this, and it's not like a rebuild, but as we build this moving forward, you have to have long-term sustainability. And part of that is having that cap space this year, next year. Maybe roll some of that over to next year, maybe use some of it this year. But we have a plan for it. We'll see how it works out.
Thanks for being our first guest on Media Day.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Starting us off.
Wonderful. How long you guys on for today?
We're on for a long time.
Long time, brother. All
That's why
day.
we're excited.
Come back at you.
How about
We
that?
can use you again. We'll book you on the back end. Thanks to Tom Telesco for joining us. When we come back.